You said something about you don't really care about using AI in the future because hopefully you're going about that. I got a flashback because when I was last year and we had a little meeting with my parents. It's on YouTube now. You asked me, do you care about like global warming and saving the planet? Because my parents were into the green space with plumbing and etc. etc. And I said the same thing. Well, I don't really care as long as I live to not be affected by it. Then I don't really care what happens next. So
well, one of the reasons I don't care is I know we can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Contrary, I may be the only one that reads these NATO and World Bank and International Monetary Fund reports. But I said at the seminar, and the numbers haven't changed 2 years ago, the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, et cetera, came out with a report about 3.5 years ago. If we stopped January 1st, 6 years ago, whenever it was, all the things the Green Party wants, all the things the people that are marching around embassies with placards, save the humanity, save blah, 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 about global warming. If we stopped them all on January 1, you know how many years it would take for the world, the planet, to get back to net zero? 3,705. 3,705 years to get back to net zero. Who gives a fuck? Forget about it. I mean, and then there's all kinds of other studies, but nobody looks at them because it doesn't fill a slot in their agenda. I've realized that for a long, long time. I know that the cure for global warming is going to be, and I said it at your seminar, they've been working on it 20, 25, 30 years. It's going to be scientific. It's going to be not dissimilar to what they did when they dropped the defoliage stuff on Vietnam and Cambodia to make all the trees go away so they could kill people easier. It's Cambridge, MIT, Caltech, and one other university, which escapes me now. I've been working on it 20, 25 years. And lo and behold, they're going to come up with it. I don't know if it's in my lifetime, but they're going to come up with it when we magically run out of hydrocarbons under the ground. It's going to be a miracle that those lines cross, and when hydrocarbons, there's none to be found under the ground. If the world understood how many hydrocarbons are still under the ground, oil would go to $5 a barrel. In your lifetime, we're not going to run out of oil. In your kids' lifetime, we're not going to run out of oil. In your grandkids' lifetime, we're not going to run out of oil. And everybody in the oil business knows it. Everybody. Fucking morons.
Yeah. So, back to what we were speaking about earlier. So you were saying you've got enough money to maybe possibly use artificial intelligence.
Well, no, I'm not. Maybe I got enough money today.
Do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely do. How do you define success then? And has it changed over the years? You've been getting more successful and successful.
Well, I define success as doing what I want to do when I want to do it, and not having any hindrance, as long as moral, legal, and ethical. And that's why I moved here 40 years ago. This is, not only one of the finest estates in Britain, according to Lloyd's of London, but I mean, we have no neighbors. I have not talked to any of my neighbors in 40 years, except the Osbornes across the street.
I remember you telling me that last
We
time.
used to share taking our kids to school in the morning. When I used to do stuff like that, we used to take them to Dundee High, the two boys. But I'm up here because, I don't want to interface, or unless I want to. That's success. But having enough money to do that, not being braggadocious, but when I was interviewed yesterday, somebody, the guy said, it must be expensive to maintain this place. I said, well, it's a matter of record. I've said it before. It's about $100,000 a month to do all the shit here, and it has been that since I'm here 40 years. So just add 40 years times $100,000 a month. That's a lot of money. But so success to me is having have kids and raise them up, which we've done. Having a wife who fortunately for me is a financial, very numerate professional, chartered accountant that can assist me when I need it, which isn't too often, and being able to do podcasts when I want to do them, because I get a lot of requests for podcasts, as you might imagine, and as soon as humanly possible. So I've been like this. I haven't had to work in 40 years. When I went to Oxford to talk, when I went to the University of Edinburgh to talk, when I've talked at these various universities, almost everybody asked me the same question. Mr. Peña, how do you get up in the morning? What's your motivation to get up when you don't have to get up? And I had never really thought about that until some smart-ass kid at Oxford asked me. But see, I don't think that way. It's not, I want to get up.
Yeah.
I don't have to get up. You know, during the corona, it was probably the best 30 months in the history of QLA.
Yeah. So that's then just a habit, getting up. So do you have any habits?
Like brushing your teeth.
Yeah, exactly. It's like brushing your teeth. You
Everybody
want
brush
to
their
get up.
teeth still, do they? There's nothing for, no pill to brush your teeth, okay.
So it's just a habit of getting up. You want to get up. You've never thought about it. So then it's just a habit at that point in time. So are there any other habits that you think have contributed to your success?
Oh yeah, a documentary's coming out later this year, and I was asked that question, and I said, what are the keys to your success? They asked it that way, and I said, one of the main keys is the countless 100 to 120 hour work weeks that I've had over my 50-year career. I don't know how many I've had, but I know when I turned 70, they did a status chart. And at that time, when I turned 70, I had averaged 131 hours a week for my entire career. A week. I've cut off from that. I don't, you know, whether I could work 130 hours again, I'm not so sure.
It's around 5 days non-stop working.
Okay, well, but I work 7 days, so
Yeah.
but when I was, well, I don't know how much I could work when I'm
Well,
your
5
age.
days as in like, that would add up to 5 days a week. No sleep, nothing.
Okay,
that's just working.
well, when I was in my late 20s, I could go 3 or 4 days with no sleep. No sleep. I used to be I couldn't sleep. I was so excited. And when the markets switched to 24/7, 365, when the markets opened up to worldwide trading around the clock, I went fucking bananas. I mean, I couldn't. You know, every moment I was asleep, I wasn't making money.
Yeah.
And that, of course, that was the downfall of my day trading. Oh shit, I can do this in Tokyo. I can do this. Blah, blah, blah. And but I should write a book about how to lose your first and second fortune, day trading. You know.
That's another thing. So you say someone that as smart as someone who goes to Oxford, someone who asks you that because they can't believe that you just get up and do it.
Yeah.
So it's weird to find out the habits that other people have and the different mindset. Like, for example, I didn't want to go to uni, and I kind of realize now that's what I would have became like. Other than, like you said, it's just a habit of getting up and going. On the other side of it, people are thinking of, how does he do that? How do you get up and do that all the time?
How do you have the desire? Well, I mean, it's kind of like, this is maybe not such a good metaphor. Just like, you know, I get up first in the morning, I take a piss, but I go back to sleep. I don't stay up.
Yeah.
Okay? But either I get up to pee in the urinal, or I pee in my pants. I mean, it's an easy decision. Okay? I don't want to pee in I know, and my age and older, I know guys pee in their pants. I understand that. But, you know, as long as I don't have to pee in my pants, you know, I get up and go to the bathroom. Just like I used to forget about taking showers when I'm working around the clock. And I used to send my secretary a store called Brooks Brothers. He made all the suits for all the presidents from Abraham Lincoln. I say, go buy me a half a dozen shirts. He gave me a half a dozen underwear. And I'd go across the street to the YMCA. I'd take a shower. And then I change. But I just slept at my desk, slept in my office. And but now I run about 25 companies as chairman. I'm active in 21 of them. 4 of them I'm not active. 4 of them, the guys or the gals that run them are really switched on. And so I haven't had to be active for 5 or 10 years, but something's always happening. And and I work till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning now, and sometimes I get up at 5 or 6 to answer an email if we're in the middle of a deal or something. But then I go back to sleep until about 10. But one of the things that is exercise has kept me as fit as I am for my age, for anybody's age actually. And so fitness, working long hours, and I find that all the successful people that I've had the privilege of being around all work long hours. Elon Musk sleeps on the floor of the factories. Bill Gates used to sleep on the floor of his offices for Microsoft. Henry Ford I slept on the floors of his factories. But that's not vogue now, because they talk about balance. And now the EU, I think the work week is 32 hours or something like that. And they want to make it 24 or 25 hours. When the work week in Russia is 65 hours. Now, I'm not using Russia as a beacon of hope, but they work until the shit gets done. When I was in my 20s and 30s, if you were working on a project and it was your holiday time came up, I don't know anybody that I ever worked with or around that would go on holiday until the project was done.
Yeah.
Zero. Didn't happen. When my dad retired from being a policeman, after 28 years, he had 735 days statutory leave pay coming. Now you can't accumulate it year after year after year, but you used to be able to. Well, if you figure out 735 days over 28 years, he never took a day off in 28 years. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now I have the privilege. Sally and I are going to some big deal in France about wine. But I mean, the first thing we check, and the second thing we check, and the third thing we check is that they have 100% internet. In other words, they have all the things that you need for Zoom calls and for transferring big files. And so now, because of not artificial intelligence yet, but because of the internet and the cyber world, I'm able to travel more and still work. Mm-hmm. But for 27 years, I never took a day off. 27 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago.
So of course, as you said, you slept in your office.
Correct.
And a lot of the most successful people in the world have all said the same. They slept in the office, had nowhere else to go, but not mostly because they were working too hard. But a lot of them didn't have a place to go out also because.
Well, I mean, but you don't consider it working when it's fun.
Yeah, when it's what you get the bug.
Yeah, and you can experience. You've already experienced this. You get a buzz, and that buzz is transferable to other people. Okay, they look to you to see how hard you're working, or is this just a jolly for you? And it's never been a jolly for me, no matter how successful I've become. There's an adrenaline rush that you get from doing deals or chasing deals, etc., that I've always enjoyed. And I know virtually all the super high performance people that I've had the privilege of being around say the same thing. They get an adrenaline rush from it.
And especially when you take a big risk and it works out or something. And a lot of people will be wanting to know is, do you, and if so, how do you balance risk with caution in business?
Well, I use a different word. And the CEO of NASA Shipping, who was my mentor for many years, Konstantin Gratsos, we call it prudent risk assessment. And when you have $1 billion in cash, you can take $1 million risk, and it's not really a risk because it's not going to affect your portfolio. It just isn't. Okay, and if that $1 million can make you one of the differentiations of the more wealth you attain, your risk profile changes. $1 million loss is not the same as if you have $5 million, you lose $1 million. And so I was trained by some of the great minds pre-internet about that. But I don't suffer from, I don't second guess myself when I make a mistake, which is rare now, but when I make a mistake, I just move on to the next equation or to the next opportunity. And all these, I don't consider them risks. I consider them prudent risk assessments. But you always have to be moving forward. You always have to keep pulling the trigger, and as I say, running towards the gunfire. And a lot of people, and you're trained this way, have 6 months of reserve, so in case you lose your job. Have 6 months reserve in the bank in case the world comes to an end. Well, until I was 60, which is 19 years ago, I spent 125% of every dollar I made, every pound I made, because I never wanted a backup. And it's boded well. When I turned 60, my wife and I started downsizing, getting rid of assets, getting rid of homes. There's a couple of the homes I wish I hadn't got rid of, but I think that's a whole other story. And now, the last 5 or 6 years, it's harder to give away money than make it. I mean, a good portion of my wife's and my time is devoted to charity work and giving away money. And all the charities that you think, first thing I ask them for is I want to see their accounts. If they don't show me their fucking books, I'm not going to get any money from us. Okay, the second thing is, and I go through the accounts. The average charity in Britain, 55% of the money goes to the charity. 45% goes pissing it off at golf tournaments, balls, and bullshit. We only give money to charities, and 95% of the money actually goes to the charity. And that eliminates 99% of all charities on the planet. It eliminates 99. But I mean, so the last years of our life, my life anyway, are going to be devoted to giving away what we earned over the 50, 60 years or whatever. And I know that's way far ahead for the kids to think about. But I mean, most of the kids, their parents aren't trying to give their wealth away. I was shocked, and one of the reasons I decided to run for public office here in Scotland is when they were crying about you either heat or eat. I didn't know what that meant, so we looked into it. A majority of the pensioners in this country, Scotland, had to decide whether they were going to heat their house, their house, or eat. Some of my employees here, their gas bill went from 118 pounds to 350 pounds. Some of the pensioners that live around here, their gas bill went from 200 pounds to 900 pounds. How's that possible? Piss poor management by government, first of all, which I don't believe that the government got enough bad stick for it. But I mean, those are choices that these kids that are watching this will have to make, as they mature, not just as mature as an adult, but as they mature and they make more money. Now, normally, the older you get, the more money you make, but that's not the case now. When your parents had you, the idea was we grow him up the best we can so he can earn for himself, and then he should be earning more money than us. That's not how it's worked out, unfortunately, in my opinion. And it's even more unfortunate because the higher performance you have as parents, the bigger the task you have to try to earn more than them. Okay, so you've got some big numbers.
I'm up for the challenge, though.
Okay, that's
and I will do it.
Okay,
so.
well, I know you will, and that's why your parents are so excited. I don't know how excited they tell you face to face, but I know they tell me that they're excited about what you're doing. And but there's no teacher like the hard way. I mean, that's the best teacher. Unfortunately, failure is the best teacher. Failure is the best coach. And of course, there's some stories about kids that just were blessed by somebody, I'm not sure who, that never really had any tragedies in their life. I've never known anybody. I've heard about people like that, but I've never seen one or met one in person. And the more stick, they call me rhino skin because I have skin thick like a rhino. I mean, you can't hurt my feelings. You just can't. That's partially because I'm an American, I guess. But or as they say up here, you canna. Do they talk that way in Dundee too? Canna, wouldn't
Probably more.
more, yeah.
What
What else?
So, well, I was going to go back to you said you were thinking about giving back.
Not thinking, we're giving back.
Giving back, yeah, giving money away. And then you proceeded to say that people, or like people my age, won't be thinking about that now. However, I've always been told, I don't know whether you think the same or it's my parents' way of thinking. You always think about the end before we even start. So
Well, at the end, normally the end is when they're splitting up your estate. You know, a certain portion goes to taxes. You know, depending where you live, but it's later in your life. You don't think about the foundations and trusts you may set up 50 years from now when you're a
yeah,
teenager. Okay, I thought about it 35 years ago, and when we set up our first trust. But the idea that we had behind the first trust that I set up in '87, life changed. Okay, my circumstances changed, even though I was wealthy then. But my desire and my knowledge about how to give away money properly changed. I've had 2 or 3 different educations, and you learn by giving money to the wrong people. Unfortunately, that's the best teacher. And so some of the money that I gave away in the '80s, when I first became wealthy, I wouldn't give away to them now. And now there's basically five charities, 4 of which are religious based, 1 of which isn't religious based. But I mean, I get emails to fund the Ukrainian war. I got emails about Afghanistan. I got emails about Gaza. I mean, not every day. That would be an exaggeration. But every goddamn week, somebody's asking me for money. You know, and fortunately, we have a system how we give away money. Okay, and we stick to it 99% of the time. But I mean, that's something in their planning they can have in the back of their head. It's going to come. It's going to come to fruition again, depending on how successful they are. And not everybody wants to give back. Like not everybody wants to. Some people say, "Fuck you, I'm on board. Put up the gangplank. Let everybody else drown." I'm not one of those people. But I'm sure the first 30 years of my 53-year career, I was more interested in attaining wealth than I was giving it away. It's only the last 20 plus years that I'm interested because I realized that Sally's got enough money to live 10 lifetimes. So, we're only going to give her 3 lifetimes money to spend instead of 10. And there's a lot of need out there. I'm sure the audience, the kids know. If Gates, Elon Musk, Warren, Jeff, and a few others each one of them could write a check for $50 billion. So that's $500 billion. We could solve poverty and lack of food and water in Africa. It would take many, many years to implement it.
yeah,
But I don't see anybody. About when you were born, I forget the billionaire's name now. He said, I want all billionaires to donate 5% of the money to what I just suggested. You know how many people signed up? 0. 0. And at that time, we had 2,500 billionaires. Now we got 5,000 or 6,000. See, people, there's always another thing that I would tell the kids to pay attention to. Whatever they hear, whatever you hear from anybody, short of your parents, everybody almost has at least 2 agendas, if not 3. There's the agenda they want to be perceived as on a phone, a picture, which changed the world, by the way. Okay. Number 2, they have their own personal agenda. And then they may have some hidden agenda that they don't want to share. They may share a personal agenda with their brothers, their sister, their father, with their priest, their rabbi, okay? But then there's a secret agenda. And so when people are flapping their lips about things, for example, when Boris was prime minister, and now Ricky is prime minister, and the short period of time that that girl was prime minister, they all have secret agendas. Okay, the current prime minister's agenda, since he's worth 700 or 800 million pounds through his wife, okay, is a lot different than Boris' agenda was, who didn't have two nickels to rub together. Okay, it was a different agenda than Churchill before them, etc. And when you're young, you don't understand that. You don't understand that most of the almost all news is fake. It's just now the internet has been able to prove fake news up quicker because most of the facts that they spew out of their mouth is bullshit. Not just from American presidents, but from this country or Europe.
And the problem is perception is reality. Whatever you see on your screen or your laptop or the news, it is what people think is real instantly. So that's why a lot of people do get scammed nowadays. It's because they see something, looks good, looks glamorous, or someone's living a life on photo, but they're not really.
Yeah, I mean this estate has been paid for. I mean, we have no debts or anything like that for decades. But I wouldn't believe, other than the 20 or 25 people that work here, if they didn't tell me their gas bill went from 188 to 450 pounds. I wouldn't believe that. I think that's horseshit. That's not possible. You know, the government should have hedged in the futures market the price of gas, but they didn't. This castle did hedge. So our gas bill went from 4,800 to 5,400 a month because we hedged in the market. But it takes 6 to 8% to hedge in the market, and the government weren't willing to allocate that capital to hedging. Otherwise, we didn't have to have a crisis throughout Britain, whether we heat or eat. That's pretty tragic when you think about old people. And of course, the news, the fake news, shows these little old gits in front of the fireplace or in front of their little heater with a blanket over them, etc. You know, but see, in 3,700 years, well, actually, in 2182, a meteor is going to hit the world. Nobody even talks about it. They just changed the date from 2142 to 2182 because they had a miscalculation. 2182, 160 years from now. And the meteor that's going to hit, supposedly, is the size of Manhattan. Not quite enough to do like 65 million years ago. But nobody talks about it. Why? Because people can't stand the truth. A Few Good Men, there was a great scene where Jack Nicholson, he's yelling, "You can't fucking stand the truth." He's screaming at the lawyers, you know. Another thing that, you know, and people, I'm not promoting this, what's the first rule of crisis management? Lie.
Yeah.
Lie. And anybody that's got, you know, maybe the 8-year-olds that are watching this don't know that. But if the 18-year-olds that watch this don't know that, something's not right. And it's because we, you know, and that's why they don't say about how property prices are dropping in a good part of the world, because it'll become a self-fulfilling prophecy, and, you know, everybody will start doing it.
Mm. So next I'm going to ask you a question that
Sure.
you're getting involved in now. And
politics.
Yeah, so as a 16-year-old who is now allowed to vote, why the fuck are you doing that?
That's exactly what my kids ask, and they're older than 16. Because I've lived up here 40 years. I moved up here because it was Shangri-La, nothing changed. Everybody was happy, slappy. The same pothole lasted for 17 years in the high street. Same one, 17 years, okay? And now about a third of the, not office space, shop space in Forfar, Brecon, Brody Ferry, Arbroath is empty. Okay, because the internet has done away with their business because people know they can buy shit on the internet now. Okay, and I've been phasing myself out of coaching for the last year, and I'll be done with it. I'm going to coach up until I'm 80, which is about 15 months from now, 16 months from now. And I want to, how do I keep busy in my 80s? Since I still have the energy like I'm 40. So I'm running as an independent for Westminster, not for the Scottish Parliament, but for Westminster Parliament, and go down as an independent. And I'm having my 4th town hall meeting in Brecon in a couple of days, and then Forfar, and stir up the shit. What can I do as an 80-year-old man as an independent? I can do a lot. I've pledged to bring £1 billion to Angus, and I told the town meetings exactly how, and I said, well, we never thought of that. And I said, that's because you continue to vote that fucking SNP meatheads in. Anybody with half a brain. I know 1 million people. No, I know 1,000 people that know as much as I do about bringing £1 billion to Angus. Unfortunately for you, they don't live in Angus. Fortunately for you, I do live in Angus, and I want to do something. I want to change. It'd be my last bit to change Angus. I can bring all kinds of stuff to Angus, but I got to get elected first, and then I've got to deal with the councils, the local councils, which I'm up to that task. That's I ate these fuckers alive. I eat them for breakfast, and the last person, not the last, but the most infamous American passport, UK passport, was Winston Churchill. He's my political idol. Andrew Carnegie, the little Scotsman, is my financial idol from down the road in Dunfermline. And so I'm going to run for office and kick ass and take names. And right now, if you believe the polls, I don't believe the polls, have 85% positive approval. And I've had indirectly offered by the Labour and the Tory party to come listen to them, and I'm not interested in what they have to say. The Labour, the Tory, and all the other parties, especially the SNP up here, are the reason we're all fucked up. And in Scotland, it's like God set the SNP on a platter for me. I predicted 21 months ago that Nicola would leave. Some people say she resigned because of me. I said that the CEO and Nicola would be caught for fraud. So far, only the CEO. I went down this list. So far, 7 of the 10 things I predicted 21 months ago have come true. And we're not done yet. The only reason Nicola's got a job is because the SNP's given her a mercy fuck because she has no other source of income. And if they make her get out of the parliament, she loses her £81,000 a year. They can't take my money away from me. I have no debt, so I'm going to have some fun. And Angus needs it. I mean, what has the SNP done for Scotland other than fuck them for practice? Nothing. And people are afraid. In the town hall meetings I've had, when I ask the question, and this is all online, are you afraid for your jobs and or your relatives' jobs? And they go, I'm not afraid at all. I cherish it. I'm looking forward to the confrontation, actually. So we have a meeting in Brecon on Friday. Should be fun.
So how do you go in getting into politics?
Well, in this country, thankfully, I found out once you sign the papers and you pay your 80 quid to run, there's a limit to how much money you can spend. That's £16,000. I spent £16,000 the first week. So until they announce the election and there's a firm date, then you have to be signed up at least 21 days before the election. So let's just say they say the first week in September. So I've got to be signed up the last week in July with all the paperwork, which is all ready, the staff's all ready, and I need about 20,000 votes. They just cut Angus in two. They gerrymandered it. Some people say because of me. I'm not so sure it's because of me. So Angus is now two. I call it north and south. It's not really north and south. I'm going to run. I've challenged the incumbents, members of parliament, to a debate. Nobody wants to debate me. I challenged Nicola before she resigned to a debate. She didn't want to debate me. I offered to debate them 3 at a time. Nobody wanted to debate me. It will be, if someone decides to debate me, it will be like murder on TV, and they know it. My chairman of my exploratory committee, former ambassador Colin Cochrane, says the word on the street is people are afraid of you like they fear Trump.
Now, we'll get the last question, which is, what legacy do you hope to leave behind?
Well, it's not hope. My legacy, if I died during this interview, first of all, it would make you famous. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Set me up nicely.
It would make you famous. I've already set my legacy, or made my legacy as of 2017 of all the things that I predicted came true. But I didn't come up with the idea. Andrew Carnegie, I've copied Andrew Carnegie's model, and I put a few 20th and 21st century twists on it. But Andrew Carnegie didn't like equity partners because it reduced his ownership. So we've replaced those equity partners with seller finance, okay, and commercial debt, which he used. I even used the lawyers that Andrew Carnegie used back in the day, Reed Smith, which was one of the first lawyers, if not arguably the first lawyer that he ever used back in his day. But how you can start with no money and you can create a generational wealth. A wealth basis that would normally take you 20 to 25 years, depending on what a generation is, in 3 to 7 years. 3 years if you do everything correctly, which we all know nobody does everything correctly, although we've got kids that have created generational wealth in 26 days. Okay? The pig fucker from Northern Ireland, as he's affectionately called. And then, it took me a lot longer than 26 days. It took me years. But, and so my legacy is already, and so I want to add on to that legacy, the winning as an independent in Scotland. And people are going to ask me all the time, why did you wait till 2021 to talk or think about politics? It took me 26 years to get a passport. That's a whole other story I could write a book about. It's not all the government's fault, partially my fault, because we went about it the wrong way. But as soon as I turned over the project to my lovely wife, I was a UK citizen in 5 years, which is supposed to be the time frame it takes.
So it's only supposed to take 5 years.
If you're an immigrant like I was.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But the system's all fucked up. It just, from immigration, when I get down to Parliament, Rwanda's dying now. But Sally and I have started a charity in Rwanda. Nobody asked us. You can't go from here to that goddamn camera without 10 people asking you for a bribe. The whole economic system is based on bribery. And the UK fucking morons give them 200 million quid. It's a joke. It's a fucking joke. And now the Labour has said that under no circumstance, if Labour gets in, are we going to continue with Rwanda. So that's the only thing I agree with Labour. That's the only thing. It's a fucking joke. And but see, nobody talks like this. Because at some level, everybody, and I wrote a letter to Beth Rigby, and what's the blonde's name? Can't think of her name now. But anyway, and I said, I know you have to fill up time with producers, etc. Well, why don't you get people that actually know what the fuck they're talking about? Whenever I'm supposed to be on the debate at a university for global warming, climate change, about a month to 2 months before, when the other panel members see who's on the panel either gets canceled or they ask me to withdraw. Because I actually have been to both poles, as you well know. I've talked to the scientific people there at both poles, the north and the south. We're in the middle of a 3 to 10 year thousand cycle. The next ice age is going to be in 4,000 or 5,000 years. But the world's going to end in 180 years anyway, so that we don't make a shit. You'll probably be doing a podcast in 2182. These guys will be all dead, you know. There'll be maggots eating their eyeballs out. But the planet is through. We're through. In closing, Professor Hawkins of Cambridge, who passed away a few years ago, said in 2004, I was a slow learner, I didn't say it until 2014, the following: we're an average planet in a universe with 1 trillion planets. We have slightly larger brain than a medium-sized chimpanzee, okay? And we hit the apex of burning through our natural resources, etc., in 2000. Everything we do now is a joke. Now, he said that in 2004. I didn't catch up to that until 2014. But the facts still remain. We're living on borrowed time. And 500 years from now, this castle's 550 years old, there'll be an android sitting here talking to me. Somebody's working on replacing me with Android to give my seminar with the new current artificial intelligence. If you go to Heathrow Airport, they have a hologram. When you go down, they'll replace me with a hologram.
Really
because the artificial intelligence knows what I'd answer, knows what I'd say.
Yeah, well, that goes back to the point where you said, well, people are thinking that it's going to give more jobs that we really want.
That's fucking ludicrous. That's ludicrous.
Don't know how.
And I support the high school that I went to, and I support the grammar school I went to, and being around the kids. It's scary. I mean, they have safe times and safe spaces that you can go and lie down on a blankie, and the teachers can't yell at you anymore. And Jesus Christ.
Oh, I don't know.
No, you don't have to know. Just build a bunch of wealth and do the best you can with the money. Which means you'll give some of it away.
That's again, you see, that's people growing up to be snowflakes from school, being taught to be a snowflake from school.
Yeah, and the snowflakes, their retort or their answer to that is, no two snowflakes that have ever fallen on the planet have been the same, which is absolutely true. But my definition of a snowflake is that you melt under pressure, not the fact that you're so different. One of the things that trends the most on the internet now are people getting beat up, and people getting raped, etc. But the apathy or the sadness of where the world is today is in one little clip about 60 seconds long. Last year on the underground, the subways of New York, a 60-year-old woman was raped by a 20-year-old black kid. 40 people on the subway took film of it, but didn't help her. 40. That's where we are.
Truly, that's disgusting.
Yeah. That's where we are. But we're looking to your generation to save the world.
Well, what are your hopes on this generation?
Well, I'm not betting high. I don't know if that's an over or under on that bet, but that's kind of like day trading.
Yeah, it's a good massive gamble.
The odds aren't too good.
Number one piece of advice to a 16-year-old wanting to achieve success.
Find something that you're passionate in and then work your tail off.
How do you pick who you listen to?
Carefully.
So, more people have failed the snowflake test than ever, you said. What hope do you have for the next generation?
Not much.
People my age are talking about internet money, for example, Bitcoin, NFTs, drop shipping. What is your opinion on these?
I know a lot about Bitcoin, and I would say that if you can't help yourself, limit your exposure, and drop shipping, I don't know enough about. It was my distinct pleasure to participate with the young man's first podcast. I'm sure first of many, and sharing his wisdom and the wisdom, more importantly, of some of the luminaries he knows. Well, me being one of which, and I couldn't be happier that he's following in the footsteps of his parents, and his parents are following in my footsteps. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dan, for being on the podcast. I'll put all your links and your YouTube, etc., in the description below. Thanks for watching, guys.